Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. All right, so we've got some pre-orders up for this coming week, and it's AOS all the way, or among other things, but mostly AOS. And we'll be looking at the new FOMO box or promo box for the Sylvaneth and Skaven thing that's coming. So I guess that's for the release of their own books and so on, but I think it usually comes a little bit early before the books actually release. So, but it gives you like rules and everything in there. I'm sure anyone that follows AOS knows that most of all of this stuff has already been leaked. Nighthaunt and Sylvaneth and the Skaven. I guess rules and so on, at least for that FOMO box, are out in the world there, so you can go and look at that. Other commentators or people in the hobby have already done videos and live streams and so on it all, so I won't go into too much of that. We're just going to be looking at the models and the more hobbyish side of the painting and so on. We'll take a look at that, and we'll leave the rules critique for another day, I guess. But yeah, let's get into this. So we've got the Daughters of Khaine and Nighthaunt up, plus a few other releases also with this week, and it looks pretty cool. So we'll come down here. So these Nighthaunt are going to be pretty fun, right? Anyone that's seen the rules that have leaked, I mean, the fact that they can retreat and charge, that sort of thing, is going to make them really dynamic, really interesting. They've got a lot of, I guess, basic traits or I suppose faction abilities that make them really strong from the get-go, and then you've got all of this sort of interesting play on the tabletop, which I think is going to be really fun because it gives Death a faction that's got that kind of more, I suppose, tech build kind of thing. You get a chance to do some fun maneuvering on the table, which is cool. And well, at least that's what it kind of looks like. And that's really good for Death. And I mean, as some of you know that have seen my tutorials, I've painted a Nagash, 2,000 points of Soul Blight now. And the beautiful thing about having a Nagash in your collection is that you really only need to paint 1,000 points of any of the Death factions, and you have another 2,000 point army. It's great. So if you're into Death, what I would suggest is whip up a Nagash, and you're already halfway there. And I'm sure Nagash will synergize well with this book, as we've seen with their little update rules that they got. Nagash was already doing pretty good with Nighthaunt. I'm sure that will continue, although I know that Nagash's overall power and strength has been nerfed a little bit due to balances and so on, but I'm sure he'll still synergize well with Nighthaunt, as that's kind of like, I guess, his favorite, faction within Death, and I'm sure it all works quite well. Just from aesthetic point of view, it's going to look really cool, and you'll definitely see some videos on the channel of me painting these in my blue-green blend that I do for the Soul Blight, but certainly I'll be doing it for the Nighthaunt to go with the Nagash that I've already painted, and that'll be really fun, and I can't wait to play some games with it, so that's really cool. Here we go. We've got the limited edition book and the standard, and this is coming with little markers and so on for the different abilities. That's pretty cool. I don't know that all of these books come with that, but this one definitely does. I guess because there's going to be so many overlapping sort of buffs and synergies that are going on, just to keep track of it all, and that's really nice. I think that's good. I'd like them to see them do that for all of the, like a standard pack or something for every faction. But anyway, that's still cool, and there's plenty of like third-party vendors that you can get those kinds of things from if you want that. But it's nice that they've got it there for people if they want it from Games Workshop. So that's cool. And then we've got Daughters of Khaine as well. So same thing, the limited book and the standard, and no little extras there, just the standard book, the limited edition book there. So yeah, pretty cool. I think the Daughters, I think they've been leaked as well. I think I saw that. Maybe they have. I don't know. Anyway, it's all a bit of a blur the last the last few months for me. But I'm old, that sort of thing. Your brain doesn't work so good. But that I'm sure they'll be cool. there'll be an emphasis, I guess, away from the Marathi bow snake builds that you see in tournaments. I'm sure it's going to move to something else in the book. I think that new character and that sort of thing. So I'm sure that this book is going to change the way they play a little bit compared to what maybe Daughters players normally choose for their more competitive lists. But, that's cool. A bit of change is nice. Gives you something else to do. So, hopefully that works out for him. But really, what's the star of the show are these Nighthaunt models. So we've seen these before, but how cool is this thing? Little boatman guy, just a really fun hobby project, right? So painting this up, there's so many nice swirls of mist and capes and so on, where you can do these nice blends, as the heavy metal team have done, as we see here. Look at it, it's great. You can do all kinds of really interesting things, and from both a beginner level to advanced. The beginner can use the contrast paint and do the sort of blended work with that relatively easily. And as you move further along in your painting, journey, and you start to learn to blend and layer and highlight and do more advanced techniques, there's enough detail here and also flat space for a painter to, work their magic and create their own unique version of this, right? So this is a really, really smart model, and something that also, to me, really, I guess, reminds me a lot of third-party printing companies. So it's almost like Games Workshop is in a conversation here, not in that competitive sort of, us and them kind of way, but what I'm talking about is the sculptors and the designers kind of pushing the direction of this particular model. Feels a lot like something that a third-party sculptor or studio might produce as a proxy for Warhammer. It's got this sort of slightly off Warhammer zany kind of vibe to it that's not entirely canon. I don't know, in some ways it's got what it feels like to me. I mean, it's got all of the the Nighthaunt trappings. It's got all the little iconography and pieces that look like Nighthaunt. It's not that it doesn't, but there's just something about the idea of this boat floating through the air and the way these spirits are, and something about this just feels like it could come from someone else. And I feel like that influence of in the current way things are going, where you've got a lot more people designing and producing this type of gaming piece for tabletop, especially as proxies for Warhammer, it's undoubtedly going to start influencing the designers and sculptors that work for Games Workshop. That sort of influence is coming because artists are always in conversation with one another, whether you know that or not. But as a whole community, across the world, we all are part of that, including painters, hobbyists. If you don't consider yourself an artist, you are. You're doing a creative pursuit. It's part of this, and you're always feeding off others' work, and then in turn you're putting your stuff out there and so on. Even if it's just on social media and an Instagram account or whatever, you're still in that conversation too. And we all get influenced by one another, and this is an example of that. I think that's this for me feels like it comes directly from that kind of inspiration. So yeah, really cool. I like it. I think that's great. And we've seen it too in the way that they do their painting now. I think it was is it Vince on I don't know what show he did just recently. I think on his reaction to the Warhammer Fest stuff, he was talking about the painting on the new Deathmaster, the new Skaven model, which we're going to look at, and it's got all the non-metallic metal in it and so on. So heavy metal getting inspired by modern painting techniques and incorporating that in, which is not something that they don't normally do. They normally stick with true metallics. So you've got some little influences there, both in the painting and also the designing and sculpting of these models, which I think is really cool. I think that's cool to sort of blend a lot of those things and harmonize and that sort of thing. So yeah, really cool. So then we've got these crossbowmen. I think this is awesome. So I'm an old school fan of Undead. I've talked about this before, so I won't go on too long, but there was a time when you had like cool little skeleton crossbowmen in your undead army a very, very long time ago. Probably some people who are listening to this weren't even born then. But it was really fun to have an undead army when it was all combined. It wasn't all split up. Everything was together. So the mummies and the sort of like the Egyptian influence was all in the one army, like the Tomb King stuff and that sort of thing from fantasy, which is now, I guess, your Ossiarch Bone Reapers. all of the different elements were all in one place. So you had the catapults, you had the shooting units, you had your sort of your terrifying units, you had, you know, your zombies and your necromancers and your vampires. They're all together, and then they split them all into sub-factions and separate sort of entities, which is fine. You know, it gives them more identity individually, but I really loved that old thing of having it all together. It was sort of like, you know, just basically the sort of, you know, fear-causing version of an Empire or a Cities of Sigmar army. You know, you had a little bit of everything in there, and you could have this very balanced kind of looking force, but just be undead. And I thought that was really fun. And most of their tactics came about, they weren't really great at any one thing, but, you know, it was the psychology, the fear and terror stuff, which really helped you. So, you know, but having a bit of range was nice. So it's nice that they've included that back in. It's come back around and we're getting a little bit of that in there. I don't really, you know, mind what the stats are on these, but I think that they're really fun and cool to paint up. And you know, competitively, who knows how they'll go. But you know, just from a modeling point of view, this is great. These are really cool minis. So yeah, nice to see. And then we've got this ethereal court. I don't think this isn't new, right? Is this new? No. Maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, these are really fun too. Again, a lot of nice areas for you to do some painting and blending, just as the heavy metal team have done here. All of this sort of shaded work, which I'll definitely be mucking around on. Yeah, it's cool. And you can do this with airbrushing. You can do it with brushes. It's got a range of ways in which you can apply to these. The Nighthaunt range is just great all over, right? There's so many nice, evocative images going on with these models that suggest so many different sorts of ideas for painting and conversion. It's just cool. You know, I've seen great grimdark versions where they do oil washes and, you know, you get a really sort of realistic kind of horror look to them with like blood splatters and that sort of thing. And then I've seen other people do videos where it's like really classic heavy metal style, really bright, rich color and so on. So you can do all kinds of stuff with this. It's great. Then we've got, obviously, we've got a new box set, battle box set for the Ideneth. That's cool. Everything in there, I'm sure, will be good, considering that they're rules now. So that's all nice, and obviously Fire Slayers get theirs as well. I thought these were already out, but obviously not. And then we've got, yeah, obviously all the other little bits and pieces for those armies, so the for Fire Slayers as well. And then this little pack, which comes with these little markers, which is nice. So if you're wanting the cards, like for the unit cards for Nighthaunt, we've got that with a little pack of those, yeah, I guess objective markers, you'd call them. What would you call that? But anyway, you know, that's all good. That's all nice. These dice aren't too egregious. I'm not a huge fan of the big wacky dice. They're nice for collection, but not really great for gaming. But these aren't too bad. They're relatively good for, you know, seeing the numbers and so on. So that's nice. I definitely prefer that to the more wackier designs they've done in the past. But yeah, not too bad if you like that stuff. And then we've got some Lord of the Rings here. Looks like they're doing their range rotation as they do with Lord of the Rings, and now even 40k, just swapping out some of the older models and reducing some of the bloat in the range, which is fine. All companies kind of do that at some point when they have as many miniatures and SKUs as what Games Workshop has. You can't keep it all on the shelves all at once. So yeah, no problems there. We go through and take a little look, and we've got this, which was nice. This was a pretty cool kit. I don't actually know how much this is, at least in Australian dollars. It's probably, you know, $1 million. But this is actually a pretty cool kit. I remember someone talking about this on a video that I watched, where like this would make really great 40k terrain or AOS terrain if you wanted to do some conversion with it and make it more usable. It's actually got a lot of, you know, it's not really anything really identifying it as Lord of the Rings. This could be a really fun one to do for one of those main games as well. Yeah, it's not bad terrain, that. I like it. And then we've got, yeah, so some dice. Yeah, these are probably, yeah, probably a little bit too much for me, but, you know, some people like that. Yeah, all of the rest of the Lord of the Rings stuff, which is cool. It's all good. I don't mind much of this, but, you know, when you're, yeah, it's hard to play every game system, right? It's definitely a hard thing. You got to choose. You got to choose the one you like. But yeah, some nice models. I think this Dragon Emperor one is pretty cool. I saw this a while back. This is a pretty cool miniature. I think if you're into Lord of the Rings, this would be the one that I would probably, you know, gravitate towards. It's got some fun elements. Would be a fun one to paint for sure. Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, and then we'll come down here and we'll have a look. I think there's, yeah, this one. Yep. So I've already talked about this, but this halfling on a ram is great. So that's coming out too. Fantastic. You know, what can I say? That's the best. So now I think we'll go over and take a look at these Sylvaneth and Skaven. So they've got their promo or FOMO box coming out, Echoes of Doom. This is the box here, and we take a look. So this is already also leaked as well, so you'll see plenty of people talking about it on Twitch and so on. But yeah, you've got not that many new models for Skaven, or at least initially in their first wave. It looks like they're just getting the sort of the small release treatment as some of the AOS armies have gotten, but Sylvaneth have a lot more. So they're getting a few more models than what the Skaven are. And yeah, it's interesting. So apparently this box is a little bit outpointed, so imbalanced, which I don't know how that fits in with these boxes. And I guess they do design them to be something that you play independently, I suppose. But yeah, apparently there's about 400 or 500 points extra in Sylvaneth as opposed to the Skaven. So I guess if you're playing these against each other, it might be a little bit of a bad time for the Skaven player. But I don't know if people actually do that, or even whether kids actually do that much. I think these are just starting points to your collection if you're getting into them, or splitting them with a friend to collect to add more. So I don't know whether you would actually end up playing these independently. But anyway, whatever, it's a thing, right? So yeah, we've got this Deathmaster. So here we can see the non-metallic metal being used on the blades. In fact, I think all of the metal areas are done in sorry about that, got a frog in my throat. Non-metallic areas like on the armor here and so on, which is new for Games Workshop to do that, and a little bit of sort of weathering and staining going on. I think Vince talked about this being pigments. It probably could be pigment on there. Looks like it. So yeah, really cool influence there to see some modern, you can see the reflections here on this little knee pad thing. We've got a little bit of a bounce light hitting from the rocks up onto the bottom side, and then we've got the light on the top. So that's really cool. That's a nice little touch there to be doing a little bit of that for an heavy metal paint job. Yeah, pretty cool. So we've already seen all these. I've gone through them, but look, I mean, they're great. They're great models for anyone that's doing these armies. They're going to be happy. Obviously, Sylvaneth players will be a little happier because they're getting a few more, but who knows? Maybe Skaven get some in a second wave later on. We don't know. But yeah, all in all, pretty cool for both of these armies that they're coming, and they will inject a lot of life into the meta and change things up. And I'm sure these armies will have competitive builds that people can do, which will help, add a new bit of flavor into competitive play. But I think we'll leave it on this Deathmaster because he's probably my favorite. That's a really cool model, and I think Skaven players should be pretty happy with this. It's going to be a fun one to paint for sure. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.